So I haven't done an update in a while. Here's where we are. It's middle of February. Um, so most of the panels are back on. I took them and had them stripped and then repainted. Um, the AC system is out, and we'll get to that in a minute. Um, but as you can see, a lot of the hydraulic stuff's put back together. Um, the next big project is going to be wiring. We'll walk through that really quick here, but there's a couple main connectors for the harness, and that all runs down through here and then into this. And this is a combination of, I've got some of the stuff marked. My friend Tyler helped sort out some of it when he was here a couple of weeks back, but a lot of the ends of the plugs had been um, cut and things were spliced in, so I'm not sure exactly what's what. Also, the car has a later alternator, and I'm not sure exactly how that wiring is supposed to work, so we got to sort that out. Wiring wise, one of the things that's significantly goofy, this wire runs to an aftermarket fuel pump, and underneath this tape is a fuse that was all taped together. So basically, what happened is they installed the fuel pump. We'll go over and take a look at that quick. They installed this fuel pump with aftermarket wiring, and then they avoided using the standard wiring with the fuel pump cutoff. So basically, they ran a hot wire all the way around um, underneath the rocker here, um, picks up here, goes all the way through this added fuse, and then down across the front of the car and down in through the firewall there to the ignition switch. So um, we'll correct that. On the driver's side of the car, the main harness here is also, it's kind of the same deal. A lot of this is still factory tape through here. I reinstalled these, well, the circuit breakers as well as these relays. There's one aftermarket relay here that doesn't have the little mounting tab. Roland up in up in Washington had said that depending on the year, these might be different colors. I'm not sure if these are original or not. Don't really care at this point, as long as they work. But anyway, we've got the headlights, but then we've got this big bundle of stuff we need to figure out. So, wiring wise, all that stuff is back together. In terms of the hydraulics, we got these put back together. Chris Dubuque, I sent him all the spheres and he recharged them. A couple of the two rear spheres didn't need recharging. The fronts did, as well as this one on the main pump. So those are all done and repainted and stuff. I did learn a lesson on the pump. That is the pump that was on the car originally. I tried to get the nut off so that I could remove that pulley just to clean it. And I wound up learning a lesson that the nut is right-hand thread. And I basically spun the nut so that it stripped the threads on the shaft and busted the pump. We had fluid coming out this crease here, so that pump was bad. And thankfully, Roland had a spare pump on the shelf that he was willing to sell to me. So this is the one from his spares basket. Anyway, I need to reinstall the air conditioning. It has a late model Sanin compressor. You can see that over there on the floor. I did take the condenser and evaporator. The evaporator's out. that fits right down inside of there on the interior of the car, as well as the hoses and the dryer. Those are all at max radiator, being pressure tested, and I'll figure out what is going to be able to be reused and what needs to be replaced. So why don't we take a look at that quick as we're on the subject. As you can see, the interior has pretty much been removed. Anyway, the evaporator goes up underneath there in a plastic box, and that plastic box had been broken, so I need to figure out whether to get a new plastic box or repair the one that's in there. I'm kind of half tempted to repair the one that's in there. We'll get back to more interior stuff later. This is the kick panel that goes on top of that, I should say, covers the box. These are the two interior side panels, and walking around here, we've got, as you can see, the dash has been removed in order to have access to all the wiring. I'll also replace all the bulbs and that sort of thing. I do want to remove that console, and I need to figure out, I know there's an issue with the passenger side window, whether it's the switch or the window itself. I haven't removed that panel yet, the door panel, to figure that out. What else? All the carpets are out of the car now, as you can see. All that came out pretty easily, and I cleaned them all by hand basically in the bathtub, to try and get them to revive. So they look a lot better. They were absolutely disgusting, all the junk that came out of them. So I'm going to reinstall those carpets. I have reinstalled the rear seat. I need to bolt it down, but that went back together really nice, and the seat looks great. The leather looks really good. I did recondition the leather. I'll show you what kind of products I used on that, but that worked very, very well. Anyway, I think one of the next jobs in the interior here is going to be to start reinstalling the carpet, and then once we start goofing with the wiring, I'm going to leave the dash off until it's time to make sure the wiring works and the hot is hot and all that kind of stuff. This is the dashboard, which does have a pretty significant tear across there. You can see the tear. So I need to find some vinyl and recover the dash. It's just vinyl that's been wrapped across with probably some little bit of foam or something like that. Anyway, that needs to be done as well. Here's the gauges. So we'll replace all those light bulbs. I don't know if the clock works yet or not. I got to test the clock. We'll get to that later. And then there are some more panels to reinstall. I don't know, that panel must have fallen off. Anyway, more panels to reinstall. There's the heater. Heater. There's the coolant line for the driver's side, and as you can see, it has an extra cooler, inline cooler for the automatic transmission. So we got those lines ready to roll. They are right there. The power steering rack, I got that mounted and got it done at the correct angle, set up at the correct angle. We did have to replace the passenger side boot that had a tear in it. It is not unlikely that the rack is going to leak a little bit once we put power to it, get some pressure in there, but we'll see. I have not yet shimmed and fastened the accessory rack down, but you can see the brake calipers rebuilt down inside of there, with some fresh brake pads and rotors, courtesy of David Hume, who's been super helpful. radiator, had that tested and cleaned. It by Max Radiator, tested out just fine. So they just sent it back. Well, I went and picked it up and reinstalled it. Got the brake ducts reinstalled. That was a pretty cool process. They are super duper cool in terms of how they're fabricated and how they fit up underneath there. Sounds like that's a pretty normal Citroen thing. The car did have air horns. That's one electrical thing I forgot to mention. Well, at least it has, or had, the pump, which appears to work, but not the horns themselves. So a couple of horns coming from David as well. The front seats came out really, really nice. They were pretty dry, but I was able to clean them and recondition them, so the leather is nice and soft now. So it shouldn't tear, which is really good. We've got the little clips for the carpet. They had some rust, so those were soaking in some rust removal, and that appears to have worked its magic. So we'll probably get these back installed. And then what I used for the seats is this Leather Clinic stuff, Leather Revive and Leather Cleaner. I got that online, and it works very, very well. I had used Lexol in the past, and I've been using that a little bit too. But anyway, these seats, it's one of the the only nice things about this car. So I wanted to do the best I could with getting them back. One other thing to mention, and this was yesterday, these are the old seat belts. They had a real system for the lap belt in front and a static clip for the shoulder belt. Anyway, I got a set of modern real seat belts and installed them underneath there. So that came from Cyril Sars in the Netherlands. Anyhow, we'll get some real seat belts installed in the car. The other ones were pretty old and dried up. And what else do we have? I think that's about it for right now. We'll do another quick video installment once the carpets are back in the car.